I'm David Jacoby. We are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we do?
And give the people what they want.
Jalen Rose, I've been in the media for about 23 years, and one thing I know that athletes are always the most vocal right after they won a championship. And Draymond Green didn't even need to win a championship to be one of the most vocal athletes, but he is definitely talking his ish. Here he is with our colleague JJ Redick, Tommy, and let's listen.
In 2019 was when Steph really locked in on the weight room. And so that's where he kind of starts taking that bump and kind of bumping it up a little bit. I think you started to see it then, that growth, and like, oh man, nobody can stop this dude now. And I think that really changed the complexity of our organization, and I'm pretty certain that's why we'll win 3 of the next 4 NBA championships.
Whoa. He was just talking about the weight room, and then he said they're going to win 3 of the next 4 NBA championships. Jalen Rose, they are right now, according to Caesars, the favorites to win the next title. Do you have them favorites to win next year?
I have them favorites to win next year, but I don't believe they'll win 3 more. But that doesn't matter. They already have 4. And for me, I'm just happy, first off, to see the podcast game grow. JJ, retired player, Draymond, current player, doing live pods. It's just a great thing to see that game grow. As you know, for this show, we've done live pods in New York City just like that, including at Barclays. So it was great for me to see them in that form. And the reason why I bring that up first is because that becomes a relaxed form. What has happened so many times in sports media is the people that are talking about sports are in a blazer, are in a shirt, and in a tie. But when you watch the players come to the game, that ain't how they're dressed. And so it's great for me to now see the game start to resemble like a lot of how players look and how players sound. And I echo that by acknowledging under normal circumstances, he wouldn't have said that. Because when you're in that form, as you know, as somebody that helped create this pod along with the Podfather, you don't feel as relaxed in other forums to even say stuff like that. What ends up happening is the podcast forum puts you in position to feel like you're relaxed, you're kicking it with the homies. And at a live pod, you gotta say something provocative that we run with the next day. But here's what I'll say about the beauty of the Warriors. Early in Steph's career, him being injured allowed them to pay him lower than he deserved. Clay, later in his career, missing back-to-back seasons, allowed them to be in position of the lottery. Bob Myers, drafting. Steve Kerr, player development. Now all of a sudden you have Jordan Poole, who was in the G League recently. James Wiseman, who was a top flight pick that they didn't even use as they won the championship. Kuminga, as a player that if they would have lost, we would have said, man, he's good. They didn't even play him at all in the finals. And Moody also as a contributing factor. And so when you have that core group of players, Gary Payton II, who's late 20s, but still young in the NBA, and then you have Wiggins, who probably they're going to extend, that's a nice core of people that I'm naming that aren't Splash Brothers, that aren't Draymond Green. And what does that allow you to do? It allows you to limit their minutes and not overtax them in the regular season. The opposite of what the Lakers are going to need to do with LeBron and AD, so that now they can try to have a higher playoff position. The Warriors are going to be able to ease their veterans into nights, load manage them certain times, play their minutes high, play their minutes low, and get them to the playoffs. And Draymond is right. Once they get to the playoffs, with Steph being stronger the way he is, with Clay coming off his injury a year or so removed, I do believe they're the favorite, but I don't believe, and not because I don't believe in the Warriors. I mean, it's just like 7 championships is just a ton. You know what I'm saying? Like Bill Russell was the only person in those Celtic teams, and Robert Horry can really brag about that. That's just rare air, but it's not diminishing the Warriors by saying they're not going to win the 7th championship. They've already been a terrific squad that's won 4.
So it's hard to sit here and it's still June and talk about who's going to win the championship next year. You know what I mean? But right now, as we sit here, I do have the Warriors' favorites. I love what the Clippers, adding John Wall, see if they come back healthy, see if the Nets can finally be healthy first season, see if the Mavs losing Brunson potentially can add something. Grizzlies are building. That's all great. But one thing you mentioned to me, which is the key to this, James Wiseman. He's 7 feet tall. They didn't have him. He was the number 2 pick. He didn't blow the doors off when he was on the court in his rookie season, but that was under strange circumstances. He's been sitting out. He'll come back healthy. I think he'll be a key piece to what they do next year. They're not just the champions. They're the champions adding a piece, not through the draft, the piece that was on the bench throughout the NBA Finals. And again, did they say they're going to win 3 of the next 4? I would say the same thing if I just won the championship. Talk your talk, Draymond Green. Do your thing. Like,
exactly.
Who's about to say they're not going to? I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And again, that's why I started this by talking about the podcast form, because that's unfiltered. Nobody's saying we got to rap. Nobody's saying we got to go to commercial. Nobody's saying we have to talk about this. So therefore, in that form, he's going to be a lot more unfiltered. And frankly, trying to promote his show. You know, they try to promote his show.
Jalen, Draymond Green is excited. He has a microphone, but he's not nearly as excited as the owner of the Clippers, Steve Ballmer, who also has a microphone. Let's listen.
Come on, man. Not only your best player, but one of the preeminent handful of top players in the world. I'm really excited about that. And, you know, Kawhi's in the gym, he's working, and we got our fingers crossed. Everything keeps going on schedule. I think we stay healthy next year. We're going to be having a chance to talk way late into the spring season. How's that?
It's hard to argue. You know, there's always this if they're healthy thing about some of the teams in the NBA. This is certainly one of them. But you've got Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Ty Lue, you had John Wall, Zubac just re-signed. Like, they've got a great roster. If they're healthy, they're going to be a problem. Don't you agree?
The crazy thing is when the Clippers put together PG and Kawhi and the Lakers put together AD and LeBron, we'd have thought they'd play each other at least once in the playoffs so far. And it hasn't happened. I remember being, before the pandemic shut down everything a couple of years ago, we had a Laker-Clipper game that Friday, and I remember us talking about this being something that's going to happen the next few years and how this was the battle of LA. The Lakers ended up winning a championship in the bubble, but the Clippers got shot down by Dame Lillard in the bubble. And to me, they haven't really been able to recover basketball-wise. Obviously, they've dealt with some injury, and Ty Lue, I've talked about how elite he is as a coach. But what they've done on the wing and the players that they've added on the wing, along with getting back Kawhi and PG and signing Zubac and developing Reggie Jackson, a veteran player, into a new role as a productive player, and Maxey, now adding John Wall in the
Terrence
backcourt.
Mann.
Terrence Mann. Terrence Mann, that's my guy. Out of Florida State. And what ends up happening is, now when I look at the enthusiasm of Ballmer, right, Jacoby, I can't front. I love Steve Ballmer so much because as an owner, he doesn't treat his players like cattle. And I know a lot of people will be like, so what does he mean by that? It isn't like teacher on a high pedestal and students way below. It isn't. He has a childlike enthusiasm and love for Kawhi Leonard. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't just like, oh, hey, you know, I got Kawhi back. You know, I'm paying him $40 million. You know, how many is he going to play? 65 games? It wasn't nothing negative. You see what I'm saying? It was all about a childlike enthusiasm, and he deserves it. Clipper fans deserve it, and I've said it. This is the best team that the Clippers ever had. This is the best team that the Clippers ever have. I played against the Clippers when they had Lloyd Vaught, the OG from Michigan, when they had Darius Miles and my guy Q Rich, both of them. Obviously, Lamar Odom. I played against all of those teams. Corey Maggette. I've covered Lob City. I saw my brother Jamal Crawford win 6th Man of the Year along with Lou Will. I'm telling you, this is the best Clippers team of all time. If they don't get it done with this roster, if they can't do it, homie, it can't be done.
Jalen, I was watching TV yesterday, Serena Williams in the first round of Wimbledon, not the final, the first round of Wimbledon goes.
Goats in sports, make sure y'all put some respect on Serena's name. I will. And as I was watching that, I was thinking, like, it's Tom Brady and her for this era to me. And Tom Brady doesn't have to play defense. And he also gets to rely on his teammates.
Look at those numbers.
In an individual sport. But here's the other thing I want to stress about Serena. Not only with elegance, she behaves with elegance and grace and class and stylish and beauty, but I want to and toughness and perseverance. I believe it may have been a goal, Jacoby, for her to prove that she could play till she was 40. You know, the one thing about tennis is when you get in your late 20s, early 30s, you're considered old in that sport. You're considered old in that sport. And for her to not only have the success so very young, and shout to her father, her parents, Richard Williams, and so many people that have helped them elevate to become her and Venus all-time great players and performers and ambassadors. I believe it probably was a goal of hers in a lot of ways to prove to herself that she could perform at 40 years of age. So if that was the end, we got a chance to see one of the all-time greats that we should never take for granted.
I want to give a big shout out to New York City Collective Side Talk. They put out videos every so often about New York City happenings, one of which is one of the largest water fights I've ever seen. It happens in Central Park. And you see this is not a game, this water fight. Like, look at all these people. Look at this drone shot. Balloons flying everywhere, water guns flying everywhere. However, Mr. Rose, I want you to pay attention to one particular participant. And I have a simple question for you, right? Check this out. You'll see it right here. Is this Jordan Clarkson? Is that Jordan Clarkson?
That's definitely Jordan Clarkson. Wallace, my Filipino brother in New York City, having a good time, enjoying his summertime. Yes, that's him. And
I just love it. I love it. He's like, wait, there's a big old water fight going down in Central Park? Bet, I'll be there.
You know, the social media detectives have already determined that he is in New York City right now posting. But here's what I want to also say. I don't want people throwing things at me from close proximity.
Go have some fun. Loosen up, Uncle Jalen. You're old, dog. That looked like fun to me. You're
from
old.
Close proximity.
Come on, man. That looked like fun. It's a hot summer day in New York City. Get to shoot with a water gun, take your shirt off, enjoy yourself, have a couple beverages. Come on. Have some fun.
You can do all of that without somebody throwing a balloon at you from 3 feet. Just give me 6 or 8 feet. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. You know, when you're taking the ball out on the side, it's like, give me 3 feet.
Back.
When it's pandemic, it's like, give me 6 feet.
Practice social distancing at the water balloon fight.
That's all. Like, it's gonna cause an altercation if you 2 feet away and you hit me in the face with a balloon. That's gonna hurt, fam.
Next time you see your nephew Quincy, he's definitely gonna do that. We got Jordan Clarkson in New York City. Is Jalen Brunson gonna be in New York City? All signs say yes. We'll break that down and much more right after this. You're watching Jalen and Jacoby. Here in New York City and brought to you by Chase. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose, no shocking news, but Russell Westbrook, he opted to get paid $47.1 million by the Lakers next season. Now, he's been involved in a trade with the Pacers. He was involved in a proposed trade with the Nets. And all of this could have sort of broke his soul. But nope. He's listening to Beyonce, driving through Los Angeles in the sunshine, singing along to You Won't Break My Soul. Hot new Beyonce song. Jalen Rose, if you've been proposed in trades, you've been slandered in the media, you're Russell Westbrook, what is your mindset heading into next season?
There's the score of the game and there's the game of life. And you guys can count my accolades, triple doubles, MVPs, all-star appearances, games won and lost, all of those counting stats, you guys can have them. But you know what you can do? Break my soul when I'm getting $47 million to play basketball. It's the score of the game, and it's a game of life. So many times, it don't matter. Here's an exercise I want everybody to understand.
Okay.
If you live your life trying to please others, you're gonna always be disappointed. Let me give you an example. I don't care how many rings somebody has. Say Draymond Green. As soon as he starts to talk, what are people gonna say? Well, you won them because of Steph, or you only got 4. You know what I'm saying? People can always dismiss who you are. And the thing is, they only can do it if you allow them to. So Russ purposely put this video out to show everybody, like, hey, the Lakers probably ain't gonna win a championship with me in uniform, but I'm winning a championship every day in life.
Well, just like last year, there's still a part of me that thinks that a healthy AD, a healthy LeBron, and a healthy Russell Westbrook can make some noise in the Western Conference. I said the same thing before last season, and I looked like a fool. And I feel the same way this year, and I'm going to make a fool later. But I do feel in my heart of hearts, with those three healthy, something good can happen. Moving on to another team, the Detroit Pistons. Oh, I don't know if you know this, but they just got a couple of New York Knickerbockers. Oh, I love how the logo is just floating because it's a blue screen. That is amazing. Jalen, listen, Alec Burks had some big games last year. Nerlens Noel also played well. I watched way too many Knicks games. Now, this is a salary dump for the Knicks. We'll talk about that in a second. But how do you feel about this move for the Pistons?
Pistons building out depth, and you add veterans to do it. And the one thing Cade Cunningham did last year, averaging 18, basically 5.5 and 5.5, it showed that he's a building block. Now you add Jaden Ivey, add Jalen Duren, and now all of a sudden you have like your young core, right? But then you still have Sadiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart. The key is going to be Killian Hayes. Like if Killian Hayes can really be a performer as somebody that was drafted in the lottery, to go with supplementing all of these vets that we've added, and Marvin Bagley can become an asset that was underappreciated. This just continues to build out a roster. Like I told you, fam, come join your brother in Detroit for some games.
Be there. I will be there. And I want to say this, Troy Weaver's got a great last name because he's weaving a beautiful tapestry with these moves. And this is Alec Burks and Nerlens Noel are not in the long-term plans in Detroit, but they do have team options for next year that will likely not be exercised, which means more cap space for next year. What they did in the draft this year I thought was brilliant. So Troy Weaver is definitely weaving a beautiful tapestry there in Detroit. But,
love it,
Mr. Rose, there's another side of this story. This leaves cap space in New York City for a gentleman by the name of Jalen Brunson. It is all but done. We've been talking about this for months. Brunson to the Knicks, Brunson to the Knicks. It seems like it is inevitable. His dad, Rick Brunson, is on the staff, who's previously been on other Tibbs staff, so it's not directly related. But how do you feel about what the Knicks are doing if they add Brunson, which is very likely?
So the one thing about being a good basketball team is it's pieces in one big chess game. And so for the critics of this move, you could say you're giving top dollar to a player that isn't top 10 in his position. But then for the supporters of this move, you could say he's an ascending player that showed that he can be a go-to kind of lead guard for a playoff team that could be an integral piece in leading you towards getting where you hope to go. And so for the Knicks, I like them being able to sign outright an elite free agent. That's something that they don't always normally do. The second thing is, now what's next? Don't underestimate a player that's not on there. Cam Reddish, who I like a lot.
He's supposed to be on there. He's supposed to be on there.
Absolutely. Who I see as an asset. I see Jalen Brunson as one of the pieces that the Knicks now view as an asset that allows them to go get another piece. So
that team right there is not going to win you the Eastern Conference.
No.
That team right there might get you into the play-in or the playoffs, but that team right there could be enticing for a disgruntled star on another team that wants to go to the bright lights of New York City and play in MSG.
Well, now you're looking at Bradley Beal and seeing what's going to happen with his situation. You're looking at Donovan Mitchell and seeing what's going to happen in this situation. And for the Knicks, again, Julius Randle is the elephant in the room for that team. You saw when he played elite and won most improved player versus how he played last year. So does he become a building block or an asset to get you what you want? I see Jalen Brunson as a great piece for the Knicks. I'm happy for his father. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for his family. And he's going to come to the East and do work.
We're going to see
it's different basketball being played in both conferences. Like, if you look at the Eastern Conference, look at the point guards in the East. Other than Kyrie Irving, like, there aren't like the 20, 25 point scoring point guards.
LaMelo Ball would like to have a word. However, Mr. Rose, we do have to go, but we will be right